Good evening. It's about 10:25 p.m. Central Mountain Time on Saturday, June 5th, 2021. Happy Pride Month. And I'm saying that as a man who has a brother and a brother-in-law who will be celebrating their nuptials in August. So, um, I know a lot of people would say, "Well, that's because you know somebody who is gay, so that's why you're in support." Yeah, I'm in support of equal rights for everyone, and I know people who are gay. I know people who are bisexual. I know people who are transgender, and they are still living in this world that hates them for no other reason other than the fact that they are not living a lie. They are not living this nuclear family post World War II Eisenhower era idea of what a family should be, of what a couple should be, of what love should be. And the heart wants what the heart wants. You cannot tell people who they can love and who they can't love, and you should not be able to do that. I saw a post down social media about how, well, some people have unwanted same sex attractions. No, they don't have unwanted same sex attractions. They have wanted same sex attractions. People are, if they're interested in somebody of the same sex, it's not unwanted. That's the way their life is. And they got to come to grips with that. And the best thing we can do, people who are straight, cisgendered, is say, we support you 100%. We love you. Yes, love is a powerful word. And other people say, well, what about hate the sinner? No, hate the sin, love the sinner. Well, that does not make any sense because you're still telling them what they're doing is wrong. And you can't do that. You cannot do that. You're wanting to say to them that you don't agree with it. But maybe they'll come around. I used to work as a newspaper editor, and every now and then an obituary would come across my desk. And it was always these people who were in their 60s, 70s, 80s, 90s who found love later in life, and it was always somebody of the same sex. They did everything they were supposed to do according to society. They got married, they had kids, they raised a family, and then somewhere along the way, they realized that it wasn't for them. I've known people who've done this. I've known people who have been in marriages, relationships with the opposite sex. They've raised uh, families with this other person, and then all of a sudden things change. Now we're in between Mother's Day and Father's Day, and I know a lot of people want to say, "Well, you have to raise a family a certain way." Well, no, you don't, because there is no set way to raise a child. It takes a village to raise a child. So if it does that, then you should have any sets of parents and two fathers, two mothers, uh, two mothers, one father, two fathers, one mother. They're all going to love that child. I mean, at the end of the day, that child is getting more love out of this people, the people who conceived him, the people who made them, him or her, whatever, than somebody who was knocked up, forced to get married, and they're having second thoughts when they're 30s or 40s. That is not love. They're going to hate that child. There's always going to be some type of barrier between the parent and the child. And it's so crazy that we're having this discussion about, abortion and, rights, fetuses. But yet we're saying, okay, well, you can have the child, just give it up for adoption. Do you know how difficult it is in this country to have adoption? Do you know how difficult it is for a couple, man and a wife, on their birth certificate, boy, girl, male, female, to adopt one child in this country? Oh man, I had a coworker trying to do this. It was painstakingly difficult. And of course, there's always questions about, well, who's going to adopt? Is it going to be a white Anglo-Saxon Protestant family? Is it going to be a Catholic family? And we always have these discussions. This is nothing new. Speaking of which, there have been people who said Catholics could not marry Protestants. Lutherans could not marry Episcopalians. Irish couldn't marry Scottish. English, French, Dutch, German, blah, blah, blah. And then it came down to, okay, well, a white person shouldn't be able to marry a black person. Or an Asian American should not be able to marry a Hispanic Latina person. Why? I'll tell you why. Because people who are white are afraid. They have to have that racial superiority. And it's been, what 50, 60, 70 years since the Loving, which is a very interesting fact. This couple's name was Loving, who got married. A white man and a black woman got married, and they took their case all the way up to the Supreme Court. And and you see there's those pictures of them in the paper, and they're watching TV, and it's like an American couple sitting together, holding hands, loving each other, loving each other, loving the Lovings, loving each other, and you think to yourself, who should be denied that? And I'll tell you why a lot of people don't want gay people to get married. It's because you're afraid of your own urges. I've been exercising at a athletic facility for the last couple of months. I know it don't look like it, but and it never ceases to amaze me that a lot of men, the weight room is always full of manly men. They're pumping iron and all doing all this stuff. The cardio room, which is giving you the same type of workout, is almost empty. And there's men there, but it's mostly women and, a few men. Which makes me the question of, what are they really trying to do? Are these men really showing off to these other men? Which really makes you wonder, do they have a little bit of homoeroticism in them? I mean, if you look at sports in general, the slapping of the ass in any sport, I'm sorry, That to me is literally something's going on there. And I know with the whole Me Too movement, it's probably something you shouldn't be doing anymore. I don't think I'd want another guy coming up to me and just slapping me on the ass, say, "Hey, good job for that touchdown," or "Good job for that, a double play out there." Um, you know, hey, handshake, high five. Something that's very, very cordial uh, but it really makes you wonder. Are these guys really trying to impress the few women who are in there, or are they trying to impress the dude bros? And I think a lot of people are seriously like this post. Uh, they got same sex attractions, yet they're trying to talk themselves out of it, and they're living a lie. So don't be surprised when they turn about 45 or 50 and they go through what the boomers used to call a midlife crisis, and now they're with another man for the rest of their lives, and that's fine. I have nothing against that. I don't care what happens in anybody's bedroom as long as it's consensual, as long as it's perfectly legal, as long as no one's being hurt, long as no one's being taken advantage of. And this notion that we view gay men as sexual predators is totally outrageous, and part of it's based on silliness of prison rape, of the fact that deliverance squeal like a pig, and it's men afraid that if they're alone in another room with another gay man, that gay man is going to attack them sexually. And it is just outrageous because there are so many gay men in this country, in this world, who wouldn't do that. Not because they're gay, it's because they don't do that. And to you, that is what you're afraid of. And it amazes me that majority of men love lipstick lesbians on Pornhub and OnlyFans and all this other stuff, but you don't want to see women who I don't know, maybe have shorter hair or bigger built in love with other women. I have no problem with that. You know, I'm not, it doesn't bother me. Everywhere I go, you're only seeing people in passing. You don't know their name, they don't know your name. You're probably never going to see these people ever again. Even if you live in a town, a population of maybe, 25,000, you might see them around occasionally. But you're not going to be involved in their lives. But yet, for some reason, you're telling them that they can't be in love with this person because you don't want to see that for the 5 or 10 seconds that you see them at a Walmart or at a Trader's Joe or at a Whole Foods or at a restaurant. And that is totally ludicrous. That your life has to have that out of it for a small fraction of your whole life existence. You cannot live with that. You cannot see that. I mean, if you live to be 70 years old, think about this. You live to be 70 years old, you're literally, what are you like? What is that like? 23 it's 23,000 days, 20, hours is outrageous. Thousands of hours, thousands of minutes, millions of seconds of your life, and you're upset because you were at a restaurant or you were at a gas station and you saw two men, two women, a man, a transgender woman, a transgender man, a cisgender woman, transgender man, whatever, showing a little public display of affection. And I know what everyone says, I don't like saying PDA. I think it's fine. Because any person who will go out of their way to show you that love is someone to keep. Now, the true test of love is when things are bad. I've often said love begins in the bathroom. And what I mean by that is by saying you're going to get sick one way or the other. Let's face it. If you got a stomach bug, you're gonna be in the bathroom. And would you want that partner, that spouse, just saying, please close the door? Or would you want them to say, let me help you? I don't care. Open the door. Let me help you. Let me clean up the mess. Let me hold your hair back. Let me get your wet washcloth. Let me do that. I need to do that. Because that's love. And I know it's Pride Month. I know a lot of people, especially here in Oklahoma, don't want to express themselves. You know, my nephew, Cody Barlow, he was the one who had that truck a few years ago with the rainbow stripes on it. And he became famous, and of course, a lot of people were kind of like, well, I guess we find out something about him now, don't we? Yes, you found out he's a good person. And his parents raised him right. They didn't raise a bigot, they didn't raise a prejudiced jerk. And it brought him a little bit of celebrity status, a little bit of attention, but it raises the idea that not everybody here in Oklahoma or in my native Georgia or in Alabama or Mississippi are all bigots. You know what's so funny? I think Pornhub came out with, speaking of Pornhub came out with something about a few years ago, and it said that the top search in, I think, Mississippi or Alabama, Louisiana, one of those like bottom deep south states, it was a gay black male porn was the top search. So what does that tell you? It tells me that a lot of people in the South are living in the closet and they want to have sex with gay black men. And that is perfectly okay. You know, we need to quit worrying about the children and realize that we hadn't done a good fucking job up to now. Everyone says, well, what about the children? What will the children think? I tell you what they'll think. My parents aren't assholes. I mean, look at what we've done till now. I mean, my brother is 45 years old. I don't think he came out of the closet until like, speaking of that coming out of the closet, that's stupid to begin with. You shouldn't come out. It should just be, hey, here's my partner, here's my friend, here's my special so-and-so. How you doing? Nice to meet you. That should be it. It shouldn't be like, oh my gosh. Well, and one thing I've realized is, and I, a few years ago, got out of a relationship with a much older woman, and it's not just same sex. People are so adamant about who you are involved with, and I was involved in a woman who was much older, about 27, 28 years older than I am. And I'm not going to get into what happened, but it was, we both had some health problems that, and some other issues that we couldn't resolve. And I was more or less I was hurting myself more taking care of her. And there were some other things that had happened. But we had 18, 19 great years together. And they were all great. Not every day was great, but together they were great. I wouldn't have been with her for that many years if it wasn't great. And yet there are still people who are like, well, what are you going to do now? Well, it doesn't matter what I do now. You know, and I still love her, and she still loves me, but we can't, it's different now. And people are always looking for you to fail. Fail at your relationships, fail at your jobs, fail at school education. So this is another thing they're trying to do by telling you who you can or cannot have a relationship with. And some of the stuff that was said to me was, well, you can't have kids with her. I didn't want to have kids at the time. I don't know if I want to have kids now. And then everybody's like, well, well, what if she gets sick? Well, what if somebody who's in their 20s gets sick? What if someone in their 30s gets sick? People get sick. There is no set age in which you get cancer or you get heart complications or whatever. It comes and goes whenever it damn well feels like it. Your bodies are made differently. You can live your whole life smoking cigars and drinking bourbon and never have one health issue, but somebody else can eat healthy and jog, and one false move and they fall down, hurt themselves, and are paralyzed. The key is to love that person no matter what. And I think that's what people don't like about same-sex couples is that they love each other. They're not hiding it. I repeat that. They're not hiding it. You know, it's funny we say in the closet, the people who are really hiding who they are the people in those relationships angry at those other people in the same people and angry at the people in the same-sex relationships. Why? Because they got married or they're involved with somebody and they thought this was what it was going to be. They wanted to maybe be a bachelor their whole lives or they wanted to not settle down. But they tried to please somebody, please their parents. Well, what would your grandmother think? Your grandmother's fucking dead. Quit trying to impress dead fucking relatives. For God's sakes. Who gives a shit about your dead grandmother? Even if she's still alive, she's probably so fucking senile, she doesn't even know who the fuck she is anymore. And that's not, I mean, there's so many people got married, so many people in relationships because they tried to satisfy some stupid family tradition or some stupid religious tradition. And they're not happy. They're no way happy. And that's what makes them mad because they're looking at somebody else out there who is still going through all this horse shit with all the religious fucks and the politicians doing this shit. But they're happy at the end of the day. They're happy because they're in love. They're happy because they're with the person they love. They get to go to sleep every night with that person right next to them. and they get to wake up, and that person's the first person they see every day. And then after a while, they start to uh, finish each other's sentences, and they know what the other person wants. When they don't get a response or a text or call, they get worried. It's so funny that I think another thing I'm gonna say is they're probably more monogamous than somebody in a traditional relationship, and that's what's so funny is people are thinking that those in the same sex relationships are the ones who are going to be just having one massive gay orgy, or they're going to be running around town, going after every young man on the football team. No, they're at home at night doing normal things. While some guy is out running around on a quote unquote trip while he's bopping the ad rep who just flew in from Shreveport. So I mean, it's so funny that we're still having this discussion in 2021, and why so many people are mad because of this. But I think a lot of people really need to ask themselves, why does it bother them? Why does it bother you? Why can't you be happy for somebody else? Why can't you be satisfied for somebody else? Is your life so pathetic that anytime somebody else has any moment of happiness or levity, that all of a sudden you have to be the most awful person in the world to them? And I'll tell you this right now, all you parents out there, all you boomers, and all you uh, anybody who's got a kid out there right now, and you're raising your child in this toxic world, and what you're telling them that gay, bisexuality, transgender is bad, you tell them about Jesus and all this other stuff, they will probably never, ever get married or have you around their kids spewing that racist, hateful stuff. So that's what you're raising. You're setting yourself up for your own unhappiness. You're unhappy now, and you're going to be unhappy 25 years from now. So quit being a jerk. No one is telling you you have to march in gay pride parades. No one's telling you have to go to weddings or bake cakes or any of this other horse shit. All we're asking for you to do is just shut the fuck up. Every now and then. Do nothing. Say nothing. Zip. I think you can do that. Do it for somebody out there, because you know somebody who's gay, you know somebody who's bisexual, you know somebody who's transgender, you know somebody who is pansexual. And it might even be you. You just don't know it yet.